practiced that a few times. So my name is Bec, and this is my fiance,
Nick.
And we are going to tell you the story about how we got together. We literally went from best friends. We went from being best friends to dating to engaged in 2 weeks.
And now you just put your hand in my face, but it's okay.
Don't mind us, we're just going to have a little domestic pause and regroup. So basically, where do we start? So we were dating. No, we weren't. Let's bleep it.
Face.
Okay, so we were going to tell you the story of how we got together, because a lot of people are like, it's pretty crazy, and what even happened. So a little context, I started leading a singles group with the ministry school that I'm at, and it has about 1,250 members, and basically I started leading this group, and then Nick joined under false pretenses because it was a mini.
I tricked her and made her think that I was part of the school, but the whole time I just wanted to meet her.
Okay, so basically how we met, Nick was going to do first year at this school, and this page is specific for people in the school. So they're like, hey, I have a friend who's about to do first year. I was like, cool, I let him in. He didn't end up doing first year. This is a fun side note. But in like August, I organized a hike, and a bunch of people were meant to come, and everyone bailed at the last minute because they were like, oh, the air quality is not great. And I was like, I'm still going. And so Nick and one other guy came.
And my dog.
And his dog. And honestly, I was like, hey, random stranger, let's go on a hike. And so we did the hike. It was fine.
It was horrible.
Halfway through.
I had a broken rib.
Nick had a broken rib, but I didn't know. So I turned around and he's all like, I'm like, you okay? Like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I've got a broken rib. I'll be fine. But he like stuck behind me the whole time. Like, he did not drop pace. Like, you're doing pretty well for someone who had a broken rib, where everyone else is like, air quality can't come. Nick's like, oh, I've got a broken rib. I'm just going to hike this mountain. So I thought that was pretty cool. But again, I was like, sweet. Like, he seems nice enough. We had a good chat. And there was another guy there who we were more chatting. Anyway, so then I didn't see him again for like a couple weeks. And then I was having an event, and a really small, actually, I don't say event, it was like a small gathering, under 10 people. We are during COVID. And somebody was like, hey, can I invite Nick Dobbs? And I was like, who's Nick Dobbs? And then I was like, oh yeah, I know that name. I think I went on a hike with him once. Like, yeah, he seems fine. Like, you can invite him. So Nick came, and we went in this beautiful house, and we had like this whole day with just friends and playing games. And I learned that Nick was really competitive because we played one of my favorite games. And it's kind of like,
we played volleyball.
And played volleyball.
And I won.
I don't recall that. I don't remember that one. We played this one that was like Mafia, and I won a lot at that. And but yeah, it was cool. And then we had dinner, and he got all dressed up, which I don't really remember, but he said I came up to him and was like,
you didn't come up to me. You applauded me in front of everybody.
Oh my gosh. Nick like bought like 2 pairs of clothes because we were going to get dressed up for dinner. And so he wore like he wore really nice clothes, but he bought like 2 different types of shoes and pants, he told me later, because he wanted to make sure he looked really good.
I didn't know if it was like casual nice or like dress up like slacks. So I brought like everything that I would need for the night.
As you can tell, he dresses up a lot.
Yeah. She tricked me. We're supposed to be going on a hike right now, but I came over and she's like, hey, we're going to do this video thing really quick.
So anyway, actually, I did tell you before you left home, so I just learned a little something. But anyway, and so that was really fun. And then I saw him, I think we had a game night, and he started coming to game night because I have game night every week. And he got really competitive, and like, we just started like sparking a friendship, really.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, never would have thought anything would come of it. Like, honestly, we just started hanging out in groups, and we didn't realize how much we were hanging out in groups until we were officially a couple, and we're like, we've never hung out alone. We've always been with people. Like, we've always been with somebody. So we always had game nights, or we went, for a walk around the bridge that's in town. And we started going to the gym together as well, because I felt like I needed accountability and to actually go to the gym, which also led to some really awesome, brave communication. The great thing is, because we were friends first, we weren't trying to impress each other at all. And so, yeah, like even going to the gym, we had some conflict there. And I was like, hey, what's going on? Because Bec wanted to go to the gym and just go to the gym with someone, and Nick wanted to train Bec and get her to do all these things she didn't want to do. And be like, come on, push. And I'm like, oh, I just like want to do my thing and like have you nearby. And so then we had to have some brave communication. It was really good for our friendship. But it was super easy, and we just had a quick chat and it was fine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it really was.
You seem so repressed. Like, yeah, it was. Blink twice if you're here against your will.
I'm not okay.
And so that was really cool. But yeah, we just started hanging out heaps, and yeah, it was like, oh, I really like spending time with this guy. Like, he's super fun. He's up for everything. And then something happened where I was saying, oh, this was probably the only time we've actually been alone. But there were still people around. But I said, oh, I haven't been on a date in a while. I talk with my hands, okay? I'm European. And so I was like, I haven't been on a date in a while. And it'd been like a month and a half. And Nick was like, oh, I would love to take you on a friendship date. You pay for you, I pay for me. But I just really want to show you how you deserve to be treated. And I want you to know what it is to feel pursued. And I was like, okay, that's so nice. And he had like a date idea that he'd wanted to do, and was like, hey, I'd love to like just take you on this friendship date. And so do you want to say like maybe what was going on in your heart and what you had spoken to the Lord about in order to do that?
So when we started hanging out, and like our friendship started to grow, I started asking God, like, what's my role to play in Bec's life? And he told me to just treat her, to show her how a man should treat her. And so with no ulterior motives, than just to be her friend and do what the Lord wanted me to do, I just started doing that. So I made her friendship, and I made her a priority in my life, because I felt like that's what a man pursuing her would do. And yeah, I mean, that's just what I did. I mean, and from going on the friendship date, to giving her, doing that, to giving her like just a safe place to talk and vent about life and what's going on, whether it's the singles page or school or her business, just giving her the place to talk and lean on somebody. I really felt like she had a lot of people pulling on her, and so my job was just allow her to lean on me, and to be somebody that she could talk to and be a safe place for her. And then to just really paying attention to the things that she liked and she loved, be it games or adventure or snacks. And
they're my favorite snacks.
Yeah. And the whole time I'm doing this, like I'm not interested in her romantically. I was just being her friend and doing what God was telling me to do. Now looking back, I can see that, like, Holy Spirit is the best wingman you can ask for.
He knows what he's doing.
Because if I probably would have asked her out in that time, I think you would have shut me down.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. This is what it was, because I was like, honestly, we've talked about this. Nick wasn't the type of guy that I had gone for in the past. And so I just wasn't even.
I'm a little parched. Oh gosh, that is death.
I was just waiting for that.
Oh,
I had my like peppermint oil and stuff, so I knew the moment you drank it, I was just gonna wait and see. I was just waiting. Like,
wintergrade.
My oil's in my water. That was Slim and Sassy, because it helps to suppress my appetite. Anyway, and so yeah, I probably would have been like, oh, I'm open to like coffee, because I'd pretty much I was like, I want to be open to pretty much anybody. But it wouldn't have gone further. And it probably wouldn't have made for our friendship to grow too, because it would have been awkward. And so, yeah, so everything progressed. We, again, were just really close friends. But I guess we had the friendship day and we had a really good time. So Nick actually took me to a town like an hour away, and we went to this little mountain town. We walked around and we had dinner, and it was really nice. Like, I paid for myself, he paid for him, but it was really like, I was like, this is super fun. Like, we've never been alone. I mean, there's still people around, but like, it's never been just the two of us. And I was like, wow, he just was really like, looking after me. He drove my car out there, because my car gets amazing gas mileage, just FYI. Woohoo, Prius. I'm doing a lot of like product placement in this video. And so, yeah, I was like, oh, this is great. This was really fun. And then, so at the time, Nick was kind of getting to know somebody. And I was like, yeah, she's amazing. Like, you should 100% get to know her. I was like cheering him on, asking him questions about her all the time, being like, this is so fun. All that kind of stuff, being a good friend. And so, again, oblivious, not thinking anything of it. And then in the interim, they had gone on a few dates, and then she had moved in like other side of the country almost. And so that was a little bit like, Nick was like, one day she was here, the next day she was gone. And he was like, oh, I don't know what to do about this. I guess we're just going to get to know each other like that. And I was like, cool, you should totally do that. Awesome. So anyway, we're still hanging out. We're hanging out in our groups. And then anything else before the Wednesday night?
No, I mean, only for me, I think on our friendship date, I had a lot of fun too. And I thought, oh, I could do this again. But then it turns into something that it would be a date and not something just two friends would do. So we were both basically feeling the same way.
Yeah, like that was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh no, then we played, so then we had a game night, and we were playing Frisbee. And it was just very fun. Like, we were just having a lot of fun together. We were kind of bantering, and then we were playing the game that we both love, and we were like opposing. We get very competitive. We like get very argumentative towards each other. And I was like, this is fun. And he brought my favorite snacks, and I was like, oh, he's so sweet. He brought almond butter and then apples to have with it, and then he brought honey, and then he left them at my house. I didn't take them, and I was like, oh, love tank's so full. Because most of the time people bring like chips and dip and stuff, which is fine, but I do like to eat a little bit more healthy. And so I was like, this is amazing, like, how nice. And someone was like, you should date Nick. And I was like, oh, isn't he the best? Yeah. And kind of didn't think anything of it. But then I went to my home group on Wednesday night, and afterwards it was like 9:30, and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to go home. Who am I going to call? And I was like, you know what? I'll just give Nick a quick call and just see what he's up to. And so I called him, and I was like, hey, what are you up to? And I could hear there was like a ruckus in the background. And I was like, oh, you're with people. I'm so sorry. Like, I'll let you go. And he was like, oh no, I'm actually just having family night, but you can come over if you want. And I just was like, oh, okay. Are you sure? And so he sent me the address, and I went over there, and it was really nice. He apparently was wearing this like muscle shirt, so he went and quickly got changed. I'm embarrassed you by saying that. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. You go, Red, you're going. So we went and got changed to be a little bit more presentable for me.
I tell you all these things in like secret and confidence, and now it's out there for the world.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, so she loves to air my dirty laundry out in public. No, I'm just kidding. Partly.
No, that's not true.
Just a little bit.
Oh my gosh. If you see him blinking, it's because he's under duress. He's trying to give you signs.
It's Morse code.
Morse code.
It means help.
So where are we up to? Okay, so then we again, we're hanging out. Friends date went really well. And we had like a game night at my place. We were playing Frisbee. And Nick brought my favorite snacks. It was so sweet. Now he's playing with some tape.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I get distracted.
Squirrel! So yeah, so we were playing frisbee and we were just having a really good time. And then we came in and into the house and we were like just playing games. We were getting really competitive and I was beating him and he didn't like it.
She always thinks she beats me. It's just I have to let her win.
Oh, whatever. Let me win, he says while crying, while trying to succeed, but not. And so he brought me my favorite snacks. He brought me some apples and almond butter
and honey.
Like my favorite snacks. And I was like, oh, this is filling my love tank. Like, thank you so much. And he had to leave early. And I was telling somebody like, oh, look, he brought my favorite. How great is Nick? And they're like, somebody said like, why don't you guys just date? And I was like, oh, ha, ha. Yeah, that would be great. I said something like, oh yeah, he's so great. And then just like never thought anything of it.
But you actually did miss me. You did say that.
I did. I was like, oh, he's gone. And it's so much better when he's here. Because he left at like 9 p.m. because he had to work the next morning. But I was like, no, stay. Like, it's not as fun when you're not here. And so that was new. I was like, that's a bit weird. I've never really thought about that. But he's never left early. You made me want it. Want you closer. And so then Wednesday night rolls around. I'm at home group. Home group finishes and it's kind of early. And I'm like, oh, I'd really love to hang out with Nick. So I call him. I'm like, hey, what are you up to? And he says that I call him and I hear all this commotion and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, you've got people, I just wanted to see what you're up to, but I can see you're busy. I'll let you go. And he's like, no, I've got family night. Like, you can come over if you want. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I drive into his place. I arrive and they're playing D&D, which he did not tell me on the phone. And I was like, oh, hey, guys. And then they're like, come, you can have this character. And they're getting all excited about it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I've never played before in my life.
She liked it.
I did, but it was very strange to begin with, being like, hey, we're in the armory. Like, you got any night vision goggles? Or like, hey, I'm looking around. Do I see a sword anywhere? I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Like, it's role playing and it was fun once I did it. But in the beginning, I was like, this is so fun. Thanks for reminding me and not telling me anything about it until I was here. Anyway, and so, but then about halfway through the night, Nick gets a call. And he's like, oh, I'm really sorry, guys. I'll be right back. And he gets up and he walks outside. And then he comes back and he is accompanied by this man who basically looks homeless. And he's kind of like got his head down. He's clearly strung out on drugs and is kind of like puttering. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I assume everybody knows this guy because everyone like starts coming around him to love on him. And do you want to say what was going on in your part then?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I lost my words. Cut. That's pretty accurate of what happened. I mean, I just walked outside and went and got him and brought him in. One of a big thing for me and like what I want my ministry to be is just a safe place for people to come and be known and feel safe no matter where they're at. If they're, walking a great Christian life or if they're struggling out on drugs or whatever, I just want them to have a place to be loved and known and accepted. But as I'm walking my friend in, I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, hey, I wonder how Bec's going to do with this because we haven't really talked about this aspect. I mean, I've kind of shared my passions with her, but I don't know if she's ever been around people like this. I don't know how she's going to do with this. And hopefully that she still feels safe. And so when I walk him in and just sit him down, and we just love on him and we just treat him like a normal person because that's what he deserves. And yeah.
And then so I see Nick bring this person in who again I think is homeless. And because the other thing about Nick works in lives in how do you describe the housing?
It's a sober living transitional house that I manage.
Yeah, so Nick manages a sober living transitional house. So he ministers to people like this all the time. And so I don't know if I knew that at the time though. But anyway, so he walks in with this guy and he puts him on a seat and he's like, and he comes up behind him and gives him a hug from behind like this. And he's like, I always say mate, but you didn't say mate. It's just such a thing. I always think of you being like, mate, you're safe. But you didn't say mate. But he said something like, you're safe. You're loved. Like, I'm here. It's okay. It's going to be okay. And then I'm watching him and I'm like starting to tear up because I was like, whoa. And he starts like, do you need any food? Do you need something to eat? Do you need some water? And he's just looking after this guy. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And everyone's like getting, like the other people with us are like getting around this guy. So I assume everyone knows him, except me. So I'm just kind of sitting back and just like kind of praying and watching and not really sure what to do or what they want us to do. And then Nick says, hey, I'm going to go make up a bed and you're going to stay here tonight. And I was like, oh, and so he makes up the bed and he goes and puts this guy in the bed and he's running around and he gets a blanket and he like opens it. It's a brand new blanket and he puts this guy to bed and then he comes back, this guy, and he starts tearing up and he's starting to tear up. Then I'm starting to tear up. And I should say, when I saw him hugging this guy, my heart like came on fire, like it caught fire tangibly. I haven't had anxiety much in my life, but I've had it a few times. And it's like, you know, when something's like sitting on you, you feel that tense feeling. The best way I can describe it was like that, but fire, like a tangible physical flame in my heart caught fire. And I was like, it's like I saw Nick for the first time. The scales were removed and I was like, oh my gosh, he's amazing. And I was like crying, and I don't cry that often. So I was like, what is happening? And so he comes back, he starts telling us about his friend, and he's just like, man, like I have such a heart for him. And he starts tearing up. I'm already kind of crying. So we're like kind of crying together. And he said later he was trying to hold it in because I was there, which is very sweet. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have feelings for Nick. Like, I think this is the beginning of feelings, seeing him just love on this person. And so that night he walked me out to my car and I think we stayed at my car for like an hour talking. And I was like, at the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I want him to kiss me goodnight. I mean, obviously nothing happened. I was like, okay, good night. Actually, you want to tell you a part of that story? When I left?
What? I was oblivious to all of that.
No, but
all I remember is we were talking, and then all of a sudden she got super awkward and was like, "All right, well, good night, I'm out," and like got in her car and like gave me like the like biggest side hug like you could get, and she just left.
I just like ran away. I was like, because while we're talking, I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to. And that was like, and I drove home and I was like, no, what's happened? Oh my gosh, no, I think I like Nick. Oh my gosh, what's happening? And it was like, my world was imploding a little bit because I never thought about that. And again, I didn't see him as like somebody that I would want to be with. And so I was like, what is happening? So I was really in this like fight with like my heart in my head. What's happening? It's like, oh my gosh. And so I came home the next morning. I told my roommate, I'm like, I think I'm starting to have feelings for Nick. And my roommates like lost their minds. They're like, oh my gosh. And they're running around the house and like,
Her roommates love me and they were all for it.
They're like, they're all from Ecuador. So they're like, Nick, Team Nick. We love Nick. And so, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what's happening. They're like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. Like maybe it was just a one-off feeling. Maybe it'll just go away. I'll just like wait and see. Because I don't want to say something out of turn and then like lose a friendship over it. But I was like, you know, but I started to get really vulnerable and really raw. Like my heart was so open that I'm like, what is happening? Like I was like crying at the drop of a hat. Like I was super, super vulnerable. And I felt so raw. And I'm never like this. Like I had friends come up to me and like, Bec, are you okay? You look not sad, but really raw. Like I was on just at the edge of surface. I could just cry at any moment. And so anyway, we hung out in a group the next night. And
we went on a walk before we hung out.
Oh, we went on a walk, yeah.
And you invited me over.
Can you let me finish the story? So I was trying to figure out, okay, so the next night I was like, oh, I think I'm starting to have these feelings. I'm not really sure. And I'm also thinking, well, he's kind of getting to know this other person. So like, maybe he doesn't, I don't know. I don't want to, do anything. And so Nick, we've been going to the gym and stuff, and Nick's like, hey, do you want to go for a walk instead today? And I was like, yep, sure. So we go on this walk and I'm just chatting, processing life. But I'm like, oh, he's such a good listener. Oh, it's so good. And then that night we were going to play online games with our friends because one of our friends was in quarantine. And I was thinking, well, I don't really want to just play online games on my own. Like maybe I'll ask Nick if he wants to come over and like we can play online games together. And so then we're all online with our friends. We're just like behind the screen together. And so he said yes. And so he came over and we watched online games. My roommates were around. But then we stayed up a little bit late, like just kind of watching things on YouTube and just being silly. And then after that, I was like, what's happening? And then on the Friday, we always have Mandalorian night on Fridays. And so we started watching Mandalorian and
I got you dinner.
Oh, yes. So look at you editing my story, which is good.
Hey, we just want to be honest, right?
Yeah, we do. We want to be super honest. We had this discussion beforehand. We're going to be really honest so you can see the good and the bad. So I have a city service, or I have something where I serve the city on Friday nights, and I was really hungry and I really wanted some tacos. So I kind of beat around the bush and got him to give me tacos. I was like, yeah, what are you doing for dinner? And then he's like, I can bring you some at like 8:30 when I come for Mandalorian. And I was like, I'm really hungry now, but I can't leave because I've got this thing to do. So he actually dropped off tacos at my house. And then afterwards, I said, thank you, came back inside, and I was like, oh, that felt really like boyfriendy to do. And
I felt the same thing.
Exact same way.
Like as soon as I dropped the tacos off and she gave me a hug and I left, I was outside and I was like, oh, like that feels very boyfriend-esque. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're going to have a conversation about this.
Yeah. And so like, I wasn't trying to do that. I thought it'd be really chill and not that big of a deal because I've taken food to our friends. Like one person randomly put on Facebook, hey, I'm really hungry. And I went and got him some food and didn't really know him that well. So I was thinking it would kind of be like that, but it didn't feel like that. We were like, oh, this feels different. And so the next day I was going hiking. So I went out with a group hiking. Again, I was my heart was really open. So I found myself like thinking I was catching feelings for two other people in this time between Nick and I, like between the Wednesday and then we eventually spoke on the Sunday night. But I was like, oh my gosh, am I just like falling for everyone? What's happening? Like, and I think my heart was just really open to Nick. And it was just kind of every person that was nice to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, do I like them too? Like, what's happening? And so I said to my roommates, like, we can't invite any guys over at the moment because I'm like, I think I'm falling for everyone. Like, I don't know what's happening. So anyway, Saturday we go hiking. No, I gesture. Saturday I go hiking. I tell my friends and they're like, I think your heart's just really open and it might be to Nick or maybe it's just open in general. But I was like, I think it's to him. And regardless, I was like, and this was another really weird thing. Somebody started like hitting on me on the hike, like very noticeably. Like my guy friends were like, he seems to really like you. He just always wanted to sit next to me, wanted to help me this entire hike. And it was like an 8-hour hike in total that we were doing stuff. And so I was like, wow, this doesn't really happen that often. It was like everything had just opened up. Even when we eventually did have our talk, one guy from that hike asked me out in message during our talk. I received a message. Like it was just like the floodgates were open and like the Lord was just doing stuff. And so anyway, I had prayed that week. I was like, Lord, I pray because I was like, I don't know what's going on with these feelings. I'm catching feelings for all these different people. Lord, I pray that my husband will ask me out this weekend. And I prayed that. And I didn't tell Nick this until we were engaged, but I was like, I pray my husband will ask me out this weekend. And so then on Saturday, I was like, okay, I was heading to an event and I was like, I can't just pull away from him because that's going to be really unkind. But I feel like I have all these feelings and I don't know what to do about them. So I think I just need to communicate them because if I start to withhold affection or anything, he's going to notice and it's not going to be good. So I just messaged him in a voice message and I said something like, hey, I feel like I need to let you know, I think we need to have some better boundaries in our friendship because I know in these situations, it's really easy to catch feelings and I feel like I'm starting to. And I really just want to honor whatever you've got going on with this other person. Sorry. Whatever you've got going on with this person. So I think we should just take a step. Oh, and I don't know how I feel. I'm starting to catch feelings. I don't know how I feel about that. But I want to honor what you've got going on with this person. Now I'm just doing it to annoy.
Push you all the way over here.
And so, and so, Can we regroup, please?
There's gonna be a lot of editing in this.
That's not. Really want to regroup. Oh yeah, and so I think we need to take a step back in our friendship. And he gets that message.
And get smacked in the face with her hand. No. Yeah, so I get this message that basically says, hey, I'm catching feelings for you. And because of that, we really can't hang out anymore. And I wasn't okay with it. Actually, it really sucked. And I told her, I was like, hey, I'm not okay with this.
You said I'm not doing okay.
Yeah, I said I'm not doing okay. I apologized. I was like, hey, I'm really sorry if I've given you mixed signals.
So I'm like, oh, he doesn't like me.
Because like
at all.
Yeah, and I mean, I knew I liked her, but I wasn't sure if it was more than just friends. I hadn't really went there in my heart yet. Because for me, like, my friendship with Bec was more important than any other feelings that might pop up. And so I apologized if I gave her mixed signals or anything like that. And she was like, oh yeah, no worries, all good.
Random burp.
Yeah.
We are just uncut right here.
It's raw.
It's raw.
And so I texted her and I was like, yeah, I'm not all good. Like this really hurts. And so she sends me another text and I just said, hey, I need to go. Like, I need to spend a day with God.
I just said, like, how are you?
Yeah.
It wasn't like this whole long thing. I was like, are you okay?
Right. And I said, I just need to spend a day with God. And we were going to this like Thanksgiving thing. We were going to a Friendsgiving the next day. And I was like, I just need to spend the day with God. I'll see you tomorrow. And so I am having this like inner turmoil in my heart. I'm hanging out with this girl, and it's good, and it's online. It's a little difficult for me because she wasn't here in person. And then here's my best friend saying, hey, I have feelings for you, but I'm not sure. And yeah, and so like I'm just really struggling all night with what to do, decisions. And so that morning when the sun came up,
did you sleep?
I didn't sleep much.
He's like,
maybe like an hour or so. And so I go on this hike the next day. The sun comes up and I'm just like, I need to get out of here. So I grab my dog and we just go on a hike, and just walking for a while. And first thing I say to God is, I'm like, Lord, it feels like I'm losing my best friend. And I was like, and I'm not okay with that. And then I said to God, and I can't lose her. And like, that was different. Like, I don't know if I've ever said that about anyone. And so that was like one of the major deciding factors for me, is the fact that like, I was like, I can't lose her. I don't want to lose her. And then so I just keep walking, and I've hiked around this area for a lot. I've just hiked it a lot. Like, I know it. And all of a sudden I find myself completely lost. And I'm like, God, I'm lost. And he just says, do you trust me? I was like, yeah, I trust you. And he goes, just keep walking then. And so I keep walking and walking for a while. And he goes, do you trust me? I was like, I trust you. And then he says again, do you trust me? I was like, yeah, I trust you. And he goes, I want you to tell Bec exactly how you feel. And I'm like, great, okay, this is gonna happen. And so I'm lost on this hike. I get back. I'm late for the Friendsgiving. I have to cook for it. And
he's mashing potatoes.
Yeah. And put on some clothes. I get there. I show up like 15-20 minutes late. And it's weird because like, normally when we walk into a room, if she's there, like, I'm always like, it's like I always come up to her first, or she always comes up to me first, and we're always
Together.
happy to see each other and together. And I walk in and she's right there, and she won't even look at me. And it's like we have never met in our lives.
I know.
And it was so weird
It was
and
awful.
awkward. And like all
He did the same to me though. It was like both ways.
yeah,
Because like I thought from the message he sent, I'll talk to you tomorrow. So I'm trying to give him space to like approach me because I'm thinking he needs time and space. And he's like, and by the way, he looked like death. He was like the most miserable little puppy dog.
Yeah.
Like he even said like he hadn't slept. He looked like he'd been crying all night. You just it was broke my heart. And so, but I was like, I'm trying to respect him. And meanwhile, he walks in, I'm talking to my two really good friends, telling them what's happening, and they're the ones being like, you look really raw. And I'm like, I've lost vision for this. Like, how am I ever gonna meet my husband? Like, I feel like I'm starting to feel that hopelessness, and I'm not usually like that, but like, what is happening? Like, my heart's really open. And he had said to me, I'm sorry if I gave you the wrong idea. So I'm like, oh, he's not interested in me either. And so I'm like, I don't know what's happening. And now, and then we did not talk. But I mean, I still had a really good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I did not. Like, I did not have.
I was still Miss Social Butterfly.
She's living her best life. I'm over there, like in the corner crying.
You weren't crying. He just looked really sad. But then, and I tried to make eye contact while we got food, but you didn't like look back. You kind of looked at me and then like looked away too. We just was super awkward, guys.
It was awful.
It was awful. And so if he was even at the table and I'm taking selfies and he's two people over and he's in my selfies and you can just see him like this. The selfie. Which I only saw after. And I wanted to go with you, but I was like, oh, we're gonna have this big conversation at this like public event that we're at.
It wasn't the time or the place.
Yeah.
Like my plan is like I'd show up and things would kind of just be normal as they normally are with us. I'd be like, hey, after this, can we talk? And like that was like she wouldn't even give me the time of day. I felt like, and then
I was trying to be respectful.
And then this guy out of nowhere comes up and starts talking to her, and she's just being her normal extroverted self and like having a great time talking to this guy. And I'm like, well, great, here I am. I want to like share like my feelings for you, and you're over this. Fantastic. This is going so well. And they go inside and they sit down on a couch and they're talking, and I'm just like, I'm done. Like I was like, I'm ready to leave. And I couldn't leave because I invited a friend and I was the only person he knew. So I had to wait for him to leave, which is like another half hour. So a half hour of just like wanting to go up to Bec and talk to her and it not feeling right and just feeling like I couldn't. Then finally he leaves. And so I was like, great, I'm out too. And and I leave and I get in my car and I was just like, Jesus, this doesn't make sense. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, I don't like this. And I just drove around for a couple hours and just processed and like cried a couple times and like just felt the pain. And then she texts me out of the blue.
Well, I'm still at the Thanksgiving thing and I'm having this conversation with this guy, but it actually isn't a good conversation. I'm calling him out on some stuff because I had seen him before and I knew him a little bit, but I hadn't seen him in a while. So he's thinking we're having this like full romantic conversation and I'm actually being a bit like, hey, this wasn't, as cool. Let's chat about this. And so then I stay a bit longer to dance because they're all having like this dance party. And I tried to leave, but it was really fun. So I started dancing and then I kept checking my phone because I'm thinking he's going to message me, let's talk. And then he doesn't. So I get home and I'm like, well, I ain't waiting no more. And so I messaged him.
Yeah. And so she says to me, hey, tonight was really awkward. Do you not want to talk to me anymore? And I said, I messaged her back and said, no, I want to talk to you. And I wanted to talk to you. It just didn't feel right. I was like, do you want to talk tonight? And she said, yeah. And I was like, great. Can we do it in person? So she invited me over and I came over and I don't think it's going to go well. like I don't think this conversation is going to go very well. So as I'm walking in her house, and like I've got like nice dress shoes on. I look okay, other than like my face is like a wreck because like I've been crying and I've been up for over 24 hours. And I'm like, I'm not taking my shoes off. And I was like, because if this goes bad, I don't want that like awkward 5 minutes of putting your shoes back on and then like, all right, we'll see you later. So,
because we were both thinking this wasn't going to go good.
yeah,
Because he's thinking, like I said in the message, like, hey, I'm interested in you, but I don't know how I feel about this. As in, I don't want it. Like, I'm fighting myself. I feel these feelings, but I don't want them. And I'm thinking he's like, hey, I'm sorry if I gave you the wrong idea. So I'm like, oh, our friendship's kind of going to end. But I know that I'm like, I've got these feelings and he knows he's got these feelings, but we both think the other person is being like, don't like you.
Yeah. And so I come in and I sit down and she sits down and she says to me, she says the same exact thing that I said to God. And she goes, it feels like I'm about to lose my best friend. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. It's like we're on, and like it's when I knew we were on the same page.
And I'll just preface, he looked so miserable. Like you look, my heart was breaking because you were like, looked like you hadn't slept. You look like you'd been crying, like you said, all night. His face, you were really red as well. He gets red at the best times, but like he was red. And I was like, are you okay? Like, do you need like some medical help or something? Like it almost felt so bad for him. Like you could tell he was in so much turmoil. I've never seen something like that before.
Yeah. And so we're sitting there and she says that to me and I just took it as confirmation from God of like, yep, I'm supposed to just be completely open and honest. And so I just told her, I was like, I can't lose you.
And then we both started crying. He looked at me like this and was like, I can't lose you. And we whoo.
Yeah. And
we were both crying. It was a very emotional conversation.
And so basically took her through my whole journey of the night and the day.
But he's taking me on the scenic route and I'm just like, do you like me or not? Like, what's happening? Like, where are we going? Like, I don't understand what's happening. Like, what is he about to say? Like, what's the end result? But where? Ooh. And then like, I'm like, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. And he's like, then I had this thing, then I went for a walk with Jesus.
So then.
And I'm like, where's this going?
All right. So then I said, yeah, I can't lose you. So I want to pursue you. Like I want to date you. And then she took me on her scenic route.
Then I was like, let me tell you what happened to me on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then I told him about like my heart catching fire. And I told him the whole story that I just told you guys. And I was like, and I would like that too. And we were like, huh, we're on the same page.
So then it was, yeah, I want to pursue you. I want to date you. But like I'm seeing somebody else right now. And this is where the story gets like a little messy.
Yeah, we definitely could have, this is the thing we want to say. We wanted to tell the real story and not be like, hey, we're going to edit these parts out because we were not perfect.
Yeah. And
I think there was just so much emotion, so much that God was doing. We definitely could have done it better. We could have, the sequence of events could have been better. But the beautiful thing is there's been so much grace for this. And this person that Nick was seeing is the most incredible person in the world. She was so understanding when Nick explained, and was basically said like, hey, if this was anybody else, like we never would have had this conversation. I never would have even considered it or talked about it, but like.
Yeah. So basically I called her the next day and, it was a really hard conversation to have. And I told her like, if it was, I get the opportunity to date my best friend and I can't pass that up. Like as hard as this is for me and as amazing as you are, I can't pass that up. And she understood, and she handled it so
amazingly.
Well. And I mean, yeah, oh my gosh, I couldn't have
asked for a better situation, better person. Like I even got the chance to talk to this person, and I'm like, I was like, you are incredible. And like, I'm going to find you someone. Like, I was like, it's going to be my mission. I still have been like asking people, I'm like, hey, through. So like, honestly, I think the Lord was just really on that, because I'm like, oh, you know, sequence of events, we probably could have done things like, hey, spoke to them first. And like, we were just playing catch up, and we're like, we don't even know what's going on. We don't know where our heart's at. Luckily it wasn't a serious thing. Like super serious yet. And they were just kind of getting to know each other and been on a few dates, but still, again, probably not the best way to go about it, but we didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
I didn't know I was going to talk to Nick on that Sunday night. I didn't know that, hey, I prayed this prayer and then he was going to come and say, I wanted to pursue you. And so we were like, okay, well, nothing can happen until you have this conversation, and just be really honest and be like, I'm so sorry. This was never the intention. But like, stuff's going on with our hearts and we don't even understand.
We don't fully get it.
We don't fully get it yet, but like, it's just like our hearts caught fire, at least for me. And so yeah, then we were like, well, what's the point? We don't have a dating season. We've already done that. I've already accidentally farted in front of you. Like we don't have.
Yeah.
You already know me.
She farted in front of me before I farted in front of her.
It's true. I went back to laugh and I let one rip by accident.
Yeah. It was a man fart.
Look at you. All my secrets, not again.
So like it was really cool because like we basically courted before we were really even interested in each other.
Exactly.
Like, we hung out all the time, but we always did it in groups. We didn't go through that awkward phase of dating where you just try to put your best foot forward the whole time in hopes to impress this person.
We definitely were not trying to impress each other. Like, everyone said we bicker like an old married couple, and it's actually true.
Yeah, we do.
We do. Even when we were friends, I was like, can you not drive like that? And he's like, it's fine. I'm like, you're driving in the middle of the lane. Like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
He still knows
we
it.
don't need to get into it because this will go for another hour.
We'll never end.
And so we started dating, and then we did an impromptu trip to.
Wait. Part 2 is going to go into how we got engaged.
Okay.
Part 2. So
now we can stop and go for a hike.
So in part 2, we're going to talk about how we went from that moment to 2 weeks later being engaged.
So stay tuned.
Tune in for part 2. It's a pretty crazy story. The Lord really shows up, and there's a lot of God things that happen we were not expecting, and we're really excited to share it with you. So tune in. We can't wait to share with you.